Now for a bonus session.
Oh, snap.
A bonus session.
Oh,
I get
surprise.
to interview the great speaker tonight, who preached tonight. And so, first thing I want to say is welcome to On Point Podcast. This is Pastor Ellis interviewing the great Lucio Rosiles.
That's me, guys. Sorry, I didn't know this was going on.
I told him I was going to turn the tables on you.
Okay.
So I'm going to turn the tables on you today.
Let's hear it.
And we're going to do a bonus episode.
All right, sweet.
All right. So I want to first of all let you know that was a great message. I could feel it in your heart, and I'm glad that God was stirring you that way and is stirring you that way. And it was more, I know, than just a message to you, that it really is something I've seen your life now a little closer, and I can see how you're always looking to try to reach people, and that's a part of your makeup. And so I understand where that message came from. I can see it. And his message was, will you step into that gap? And so the first question I have, if I could read my own writing, is really bad. Where did you get the inspiration for your opening story? That story you told was really good.
Desmond Doss.
Yes.
So, I'm a big fan to history. Sorry, Uncle Tom, we're different. I really enjoy history. And so growing up, even before I was in church, I like to listen to stuff about the wars, World War I, II, Civil War. And I remember it's a movie too. I actually watched the movie first, and then I listened to some of his documentaries. And as I was praying, and the Lord set that on my heart, talking about filling the gap. And I was like, man, how can I get their, interest at first and then keep it there to talk about what's a great example? And I was like, man, that would be such a great example. A guy who fought for his country, but obeyed the Lord, obeyed God first and then fought for his country, didn't back down to the pressure of the other people, and he went to go save others. Even the others that didn't like him, the ones that mocked him, the ones that tried to get him kicked out, he went back to save them, And it was just like a clicked in my head, like, oh, that's a cool story. So then over the past month and a half, I was, reading up on some of his story, listening to some of his documentaries, before he died. And I was like, man, this is a good one for, reaching lost people.
Nice.
This is a great one, A guy who served his country and served God at the same time.
Yeah. So when you talk about stepping into that gap, what is the gap?
The gap is, so how I see it is, the gap is, so you got lost people, For example, I guess I would use me for example. I didn't get into this until I was 16. So before that, I had a whole life before God, Didn't want nothing to do with God. Didn't really know nothing about God. And I always give shout outs to my Aunt Thea Maggie and Uncle Jeremiah for them filling in that gap, They were the one to lead me, to pray for me, to show me, to guide me. And so I would say for your lost loved ones, pray for them, you know what I mean? Don't be scared to testify about your testimony. Don't be scared to talk about the goodness of God, Don't be scared to talk about that peace, And I feel like a lot of people now is they get uncomfortable when they're not surrounded by people like them,
Mm-hmm.
So for us, we got to be that difference, We got to be the difference where, okay, hey, there's a bridge to a different side, And
so the gap is the bridge.
Yeah, that's how I see
That's between them and God.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
That divide, that
Yes.
place between them and God. Good. Okay. Good. And then standing in that place, and you become really that bridge.
Exactly.
That gets them to God, which is that ministry of reconciliation, right? That God give us. So tell us that. That actually leads into, tell us your story. How did you come to God? How did that happen?
Okay, man. It started with a car. Grew up in a unstable household. I guess, yeah, I grew up in an unstable household, you know. Parents weren't really involved like that. And by the age of, I want to say, 14, 15, I was pretty much doing whatever I wanted. You know, kind of took my own life into responsibility, you know. And like I said, I didn't have no one in authority to follow, so I was out there doing whatever I wanted. And, you know, I was doing all the partying, I was doing all the, you know, smoking, drinking. I was just doing everything that the world said would be fun. And as cliche as it sounds, at night I would go home and I'll cry because the way my life was, you know, no mom, not dad that was really there, in and out, you know. And I would literally cry myself to sleep. I had to take NyQuil to force myself to go to sleep because I just couldn't sleep because I was just so depressed. And then I'll wake up, throw that smile on my face, you know. I've always been the guy where I want to make someone happy, you know. And so I would throw that smile on my face, go hang out with friends, go do what I do, come back, repeat. It was just in a cycle and a cycle and a cycle. And this was going on 15 years now, you know. And yeah, then dear Maggie, Uncle Jeremiah, I've always been close to them, you know, since growing up. For some reason, we've always had such a connection. And I knew they were in church, but not, you know, we never talked about it. And for some reason, I called them one night, and they were talking about that new Suburban they got.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we talked on the phone, and we was talking about the car, and then she just asked, hey, how are things down there? And it just, you know, when no one really asked you that, I kind of just broke down and told her everything. And she, you know, she was like, come up to Alabama, you know, ask your dad if you can come to Alabama. And so, you know, at that point, it was just me and my siblings. So I remember we sat around the bonfire the day before. I said, hey, look, I'm going to ask Dad if we can go up here so he can get his stuff together. You know, he can get everything he needs to get right so he can be able to take care of us. And so he never got around to asking him just because I was kind of scared of him to say no, you know. And I remember it was Christmas Day. I wake up, he had got locked up. And it's funny though. I truly believe it's all the Lord's work, you know. He ended up getting locked up, and I remember that Christmas night, family, you know, we got together, and I told my dear Maggie, she was like, look, talk to your dad, see if he can come. I want to say it was New Year's Eve. I call him, and I was like, hey, we want to go to Alabama with dear Maggie. He was all upset, you know, my dad, great guy. I mean, I don't want to bash him, but he's a great guy. He's just, you know, he messed up.
Mm-hmm.
And he was all prideful. He was like, no one's going to take my kids, you know, yada, yada, yada. So I hung up the phone thinking, I'm not going no more. And actually, so fun. I haven't smoked a drink since I was 16, and this was the last day, New Year's Eve. Whatever, you know, we in family do New Year's Eve party, do whatever. My grandma comes up to me, she goes, are you packed? I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, your aunt's on her way. I don't know what happened, but your dad changed his heart, and he called, and he said, go get him. So the next day, she picks me up, we take off, and...
Good thing they had the Suburban.
Right. We take off, me and my two siblings, and I remember Jeremiah's first words, you know, when we come to church, he goes, look, it's different, don't judge it. He goes... We
always got to give that disclaimer.
Yeah, because, mind you, I've never been to... Oh, this is going to be funny. I'm going to throw in a funny story with this, you know, to brighten up the mood, but he says, it's different, don't judge it, just give it a chance. And at this point, again, I had tried everything, you know what I mean? It was going to make me happy. And I remember that first service, like, I don't remember what Uncle Jamie preached. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't. But I remember the worship session. I wasn't even at the altar. I was at my chair, and I told the Lord, I said, look, if you're real, you know, I need you, you know. I've tried everything. I told him this is all I have left. And if you're not real, I got no point, you know. And the presence of God, just like, you know, it's one of those things, like you said, it's more than just understanding this word. It's that presence that when I felt that, I just cried my eyes out, and then I took the best nap on the wall while Uncle Jamie preached. And from since then I can't turn back. You know, I experienced the love of God. I experienced the peace of God. You know, and I'm not gonna say from then to now it's been all, you know, P's and Q's, easy piece of cake. But knowing that I have a God who loves me, who's going to get me through it, it's so much easier, you know? You have someone to lean on, you know? And I tell people all the time, I feel like people forget the father aspect of him, you know what I mean? Again, I didn't have a father growing up like that in my life. So, you know, I told Jared this, I was like, man, what really got to me was at the moment I didn't have a dad and I needed him the most, God was there.
Yeah.
He was there. I was following him by example, his word.
And
that's why it's so important to read your word, you know what I mean? Because that's how I found out who he was, and then through his presence, you know?
Right.
And that kind of sums up, you know, what it was, how I got in it.
Wow. That's a cool story. So on a follow-up on that story,
Okay.
when did you, or do you have a moment, do you know when you felt the call to ministry?
Oh, man. It's so funny. I denied it for the first year and a half. Grandpa, when I was in Alabama, Grandpa said, there's going to be many churches that come out of this church. And 4 different people came up to me and said, you're going to be one of them. I was like, nuh-uh. And I was like, nuh-uh. At this point, I've never taught a Bible study, never even preached a word, you know what I mean? I'm probably only like a month and a half in. They're telling me I'm about to start a church. I'm like, at this, like, when they told me that at that point, I thought practicing your praying was practicing how to pray when you got up on the platform. I didn't know that was actually, you know, spending time with God. But yeah, they told me that, and for that 6 months I was in Alabama, I was like, no, that's not me. And then biggest moment in my walk with God was when I moved back to Florida. That was a shift change, because in Alabama I was really dependent on the Maggie, Uncle Jeremiah as my headstone, you know, trying to follow them. Now it was just me and my siblings.
Right.
So now they're looking up to me. I got people depending on me. Now it's time for me to step up, you know?
Right.
And so it was, I would say, Florida, 2 weeks in, I was going to church and someone just came and prayed for me. And they're like, look, that image God is showing you, don't deny it. And it was crazy because God was showing me, and I was speaking to it like a congregation, and I was like, that was just playing. And someone comes and just starts confirming that. I'm like, okay. And then from there we had a awesome Wednesday night teacher, Sister Tanya. She was awesome. And then she was like, did you ever feel called, you know, to minister? I was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. So I would say about 17 when I felt called to minister, but to actually pursue it, I wasn't until 19. I tried to pursue it within those 2 years, and the Lord shut me down. So I didn't really pursue it until I was 19, when the Lord told me it was the green light.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So you preached about stepping into the gap.
Yeah.
And how do we step in that gap?
Honestly, it's learning how to not be selfish, you know? And I mean that in the most respectful way. I mean, there's moments where we need God, you know what I mean? We can't help someone that's drowning if we can't swim ourselves, you know? So it's learning how to not be selfish. And to me, it's being brave and bold enough to speak what you believe. You know what I mean? I mean, you go to work, you go to school, you go to anywhere. People speak what they believe all the time. I mean, they have a lot to say about what we believe, you know what I mean? And a lot of us are just shut up, we don't want to say nothing. But, and again, like when someone says, oh, something yada 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 happened in my life, we can't be scared to say, hey, let me pray for you, you know what I mean? Hey, I know someone that, you know what I mean? Yeah. I feel like it's more having the courage and boldness to do things like that. Step up by faith. Yeah. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
To step on what you believe in, you know?
Yeah. So that'll lead me to this question. What barriers do you think keep the church within the four walls?
Oh, barriers that keep it. I would say not being courageous in doing that. Being ashamed of what you do. Being embarrassed of what you do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And again, I guess it's just, I don't want to keep saying the word selfish because, you know, it kind of sounds bad, but, you know, kind of thinking about yourself all the time, you know what I mean? Again, yeah, it's good to be prepared, but you don't want to be thinking about yourself all the time. And then,
do you think it's a little bit of a lack of burden?
Yeah, that too. Yeah, that too, because for the first couple years, I mean, all I thought about was me, you know what I mean? And this has really been a shift for me, you know what I mean? You know, I'm guilty of it myself, you know? God spoke to me, you need to have a burden for these lost souls. And when I was praying that night, you know, the Lord he really hit it like, okay, it's time to turn the tables. And I don't think I talked about that, you know. some of us were those lost people, you know. Some of us were those drug addicts. Some of us were those people, and we had those people that stepped in the gap for us, you know, that were that bridge for us.
Right.
Now it's time for us to turn the tables.
Yeah.
We know how it feels to be out there,
Yeah.
you know. Now it's time for us to be that people they need to lean on, you know.
Right.
And I guess it's just, that's pretty
good.
much it.
Good. So how do we get more laborers involved?
Better pastor now.
Wow.
No.
End of podcast.
No.
That's on point. Did I end it? Oh, no.
No, we have a great pastor. He's a great pastor. No, I would say with leadership, not just with you, but with, you know, me, Joey, Jared, encouraging people. You know what I mean? Encouraging them and teaching them how to be that. You know what I mean? We're examples. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People look up to us. We got to be that example for them.
Yeah.
Teach them. You know, give them studies. You know, we
They
talk
don't see us reaching the harvest. And
exactly. And I always say, you don't realize people are watching you.
Yeah.
So you got to do the things of God because you don't know who's watching you. You might encourage that person to do what you're doing, you know?
Right.
And also, you know what I mean? Encourage them to, hey, you are able to do this. You know what I mean? You got the ability to do this, you know? So,
I have found that every new person that comes in, every new person that we reach has a whole world of people that they affect.
right? Yeah.
And from that one, they reach this one, this one, this one, this one. And then that group reaches this one, this one, this one. And then from someone from that one will reach this one. And so it just continues to build itself and build itself and build itself out.
And that's why I said...
that's how the kingdom of God continues to grow.
And that's why I said, you know, if we only had pastor doing this, you know, half of this would be filled. But imagine if every one of us did this. We would be packed out. You know what I mean? Like you said, we all affect different people. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like... And my Mexican family, we got about 50 people in my inner family.
Yeah.
I affect a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
but...
Right, we know they're watching.
Right.
We know they're watching. And so that's on point.
Well, that's on point.